Hi everyone. The purpose of this pre-4th of July video is to discuss Kant with you a little bit and specifically to look at the Kant text that we have, that is, what is enlightenment, and look in two directions. The one direction is back to the philosophical texts that we've worked on all semester. That is to say, the various Plato text, a little bit of the Aristotle, and then the Descartes text. That's the one direction. The other direction is in some ways more important, and the one that I really want you to be attentive to, and that is to say, what does the Kant text mean for us today? And I think that that's a really important question, and the way I would like to do these videos, this video is this. What I want to do here is begin moving backwards, so to speak, and pose the question of what is this text about? What is the Kant text about? And then leave the question open as to how it applies to today, and come back to that question in a second video. And as always, I try to squeeze an hour's worth of talk into 5 minutes. So let's go here. Okay. The major point that I want to make now, and that I've written you about, is this, and that is that the passage, the essay that we have by Immanuel Kant, which is entitled What is Enlightenment? What is Enlightenment? Recapitulates, so to speak, or reenacts the basic themes that we've already covered. Now, as I've said and as I've explained, there's a reason for doing that, and that is to say that what I'm trying to do is show you the great continuity in the history of philosophy, the enormous continuous arc that basically starts in Greece, goes through the Roman Empire, goes through the Middle Ages into modern times, and that we inherit. Now, there's a lot to be said about this, and I'm going to talk to you about exactly this down the road a little bit. But for now, I just want to establish it. Okay, so if we go back to our analysis of the cave, and if we look at our reading, our essay on the cave, and my earlier videos, you'll remember that we have been saying the whole semester that the cave has 4 levels, okay, 4 segments. And I'm going to do this fast because we've done it before. The first level, or the first segment, or the first stage, is the bottom of the cave. Now, as we've said, quite a few times now, the thing to retain is the bottom of the cave kind of stands for 2 things. It stands on the one hand for the role of, and this is where it branches out, illusion, convention, error, or everyday life for most people most of the time. And that's the other big part of the bottom of the cave. That is to say, that represents what Plato called the ignorance of our human condition, which, as I'm saying, is, according to Plato, the way most people live. Most people live through and with the blinders of prejudice and convention. Now, there's obviously a lot of discussion that has to be gone into about that. It has to be developed about that. But that's the basic thrust of Plato's idea. Now, that's level number 1. Level number 2 is the ascent, and that's an easier one, I think, because it's shorter in the cave. And we see that that's, as I've said, really 2 things at the same time. It's education away from prejudice and into a level of certainty and understanding. And it also has to do with personal development. And this is one of the great things about Plato, is he's bringing these 2 together. He's showing that there's not a split, a natural split between personal development on the one hand, and education on the second. And that's something that, in my view, really, our 21st century life is all but lost track of. That is to say, we don't see that relationship between the care for the soul and school. I mean, just put it like that. Okay, so that's two. The third is the hardest one that I kind of tend to skip over because it's not developed very much in the cave, and it's a big, complicated philosophical topic. So I kind of refer to it and then scoot my way to something else. But the whole idea there is the outside of the cave in the myth of the cave, it represents Plato's belief that there are absolute values and there are absolute truths, and that they have a structure and that they're eternal, that there is basically a structure of truth in life. And every time we get there, I always think to myself, I really should do a separate video of that, and I think I will. Okay, so the fourth segment of the cave is the return. That is to say, where the person who has evolved from the cave convention and the cave prejudices knows the truth, knows oneself, if I can put it like that, returns to the cave environment and creates opposition and encounters opposition. And now, we've talked about Socrates. One could easily mention Jesus. One could mention Dr. King. One could mention any person, in the history of humanity who has had this or been in this oppositional position between knowing the truth and trying to communicate it to people who didn't want to know and resist. And the whole, what Plato is driving at is there are tragic implications. Now, I really try to keep the video clips under 5 minutes. This one's hitting 7, and that makes them hard to load. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop now, and then I'm going to come back to show how these 4 segments of the cave refer to Kant as well. Okay, let me stop here. Sorry, my remote